Hi everybody, and welcome once again to this week's edition of First Person, sponsored by the Buckeye Insurance Group in Piqua and the Coverman Dickerson Agency, representing the products of Buckeye Insurance in Troy, Piqua, Covington, and now St. Paris. We emanate this week from the Trojan Activity Center at Troy High School. The head basketball coach of the Trojans, Tim Miller, joins me. First of all, thanks for sharing a little bit of the summer vacation time with me.
Absolutely.
I know that's big. Secondly, congratulations on a 14-6 regular season mark last year, and your tournament run. You lost to a good Withrow team in the district finals. 15-7 over a year in your fourth year, and I know you're proud of that record.
Yeah, actually we finished up 16-7, so we even upshifted one. You know, when we started this 4 years ago, we knew it was going to be a long journey. You and I, spoke many times about that, and we had a vision, and we knew that we had some players coming, and it was just a matter of getting them to buy into what we wanted to have done and the way we wanted to have it done. And it slowly evolved, and it's kept on evolving. So the last 2 years have really, taken us to the next level a little bit.
I remember that first interview 4 years ago because I came in here, we're sitting in this office, and I started popping the requisite questions to you about goals and records, and you started shaking your hand and waving your head and said, we're not going to talk about goals and records. We got to learn to play the game right.
Yes.
We got to learn to do things right every day, every week, every month, every year, every practice, every game. Obviously, you've gotten toward that goal. And I guess the question I'd ask you now is, are you satisfied with the imprint that Tim Miller has put on Trojan basketball in those 4 years, in that respect?
I'd say I'm impressed with the imprint that, the program itself, the programs need somebody to guide it in the right direction, and I was fortunate enough to be the person that was put in charge of that. We had some visions about where we wanted to go with things, and I'm not going to lie, it was a struggle, and that we struggled mightily at times. But kids continued to buy in, which is key importance. The community kept on supporting us. Our administration kept on supporting us. And we just felt like even though the wins weren't always there, there was still progress being made. You could still see some good things happening. And we've talked about moral victories, and I don't like to get into moral victories, but you just knew that there was a horizon out there that you were going to be able to get to eventually, and I think we're starting to turn that corner now. We finished up second in the league last year behind Trotwood. We have a chance to beat them in overtime here. We shoot 20 of 41 from the free throw line, which would not even put us in an overtime situation. Then we'd be, a good Northmont team and a good Springboro team, and then had to face a much more athletic Withrow and size-wise team in, the district finals. But 10-point loss to them. We competed with them. I think we gave them all, we had. Our kids didn't back down against anybody, and it's always been certain teams that we were going to play. There was always just a certain element of, kids not being quite sure they were on the same level with these other players, or just because of program name's sake. And that comes with building tradition, and we haven't had that consistency of tradition over the years where Troy has been looked at, well, they're good in and out every year, and families know that, and their kids know that coming up from other communities. I think maybe we're starting to evolve there.
16-7 last year, and you did it the year after you had the 6-7 post player.
Yes, and that's a tough thing to do. We're sitting back going, how are we going to fill the void of DJ Martinez?
Right.
Down the middle, what he gave to us defensively, and his presence under the basket, rebounding and scoring ability. And we just had to tweak a few things, and we had other players step up, as you have to have every year. And it's going to be, we're going to have a tough void to fill with Lance leaving this next season. So, you just start all over a little bit in some regards. But as long as you got good kids continuing to coming through, you're just going to have to, lean on them a little bit more as the years progress.
We're talking off-season hoops with Tim Miller, the head coach of the Troy Trojans. We got a lot to cover in our second segment, and not enough time to do it in, but we'll take this break for the Coverman Dickerson Agency and come back with more with Tim Miller right after this.
The Coverman Dickerson Agency, with offices in Troy, Piqua, and Covington, is pleased to be the sponsoring Buckeye Insurance Group agent for this first-person interview. For farm, auto, and homeowner insurance, Coverman Dickerson is one of the area's fastest-growing Buckeye providers, with a history of service and competitive rates. And we're also an outstanding source of coverage for families with young drivers. For farm, auto, and home policies, call the Coverman Dickerson Agency, proud to represent Buckeye Insurance Group.
Welcome back to this week's First Person with Tim Miller, the head basketball coach of the Troy Trojans. We talked about last year's record, your best in your 4 years here, and I know you're not satisfied with that. No coach is ever satisfied, because the reality is you got to come back this year. The reality, other reality of basketball is it's a 12-month sport now. You've got to be playing a lot of basketball in the off season. I'm going to ask you, have you played enough with your kids? Have they had the opportunity this spring and early into the summer to take that next step?
I believe so. We use our 10 days, and that's what the state gives us, and we take full advantage of that. Our kids get out and they go to summer leagues, and they go to team camps, and we go to shootouts when they're available for us on dates that coincide with baseball and coincide with football, and
you got to share athletes.
we got to look at dates and say, where can we have all of our kids to maximize what we want to do in a competitive situation at full capacity. So, you can always play more. I would love to be able to play all summer long. But like I said, when we use up our 10 days are up. And we got to turn over to AAU. We got to turn over to football. Legion takes a lot of games away for kids all summer long. So you do what you can with the days you have to work with.
I had an opportunity to talk with Wayne Wiseman. I know you know him well, the Hall of Fame coach from Springfield South, and he made this comment to me recently about AAU basketball. He said, it is the future of basketball as we know it. He said, unfortunately, it might be the death of high school basketball as we know it, because he said, I'm not sure they're learning to play the game the right way. If you know Wayne, you know what he's talking about, from the respect of getting those kids back in here in the fall and winter, and maybe unlearning a few things they learned in AAU or in summer basketball someplace. Your opinion on that, if any?
My opinion is you have to hope your kids get hooked up with a good AAU coach,
That's right.
and a good AAU team that's going to be a good fit for them for the position that hopefully you're going to need them to fill that next season. When they start moving kids out of position, kids come back, well, I've been playing this position all summer. Well, you're not going to be playing that for us. And our kids getting enough practice times with those AAU teams, or are they just putting them together and going to tournaments and playing? So I know they don't have a whole lot of time to work on fundamentals. They're mostly working on their offenses and their defenses and things along that line. So you just got to roll the dice and hope that your kids end up with good coaches and end up with good programs. If that happens, it could be a great experience for them. But I've also had kids come back who were not coached very well over the summer, and you have to do a whole lot of backing up and reteaching and redirecting as far as the Trojan way and how we're going to do it. Summer's over. Save that for next year. It's time to start thinking about Trojan basketball.
We've had the opportunity to talk to a number of coaches this summer about the competitive balance issue that was put up to a vote back in May of leveling the playing fields, particularly maybe in Division I, basketball, football. Your thoughts on that, as the fact that it was narrowly voted down, but I think everybody's got an opinion for one reason or another. Your opinion?
I'm fine with the way things are. I think if you end up tweaking too much, we're going to end up losing those Catholic schools, those parochial schools, those private schools from the High School Athletic Association. If that happens, I think we lose a big competitive edge, and that we're going to have against those schools. Do I like going and having to play against some of those bigger schools? Yes and no. I mean, it's a great gauge to see where we're at. I would love to have the same number of boys in my high school walking the hallways that I have the opportunity to come out and make my team. But on the same token, I don't want to see two separate divisions in the state of Ohio. I think that really waters down what the game of basketball in the state of Ohio is all about.
I've always said this repeatedly, and I'm sure you feel the same way. When I was at a stage where I had the opportunity to play, I always wanted to beat the best.
Well, you do. And when we go down and we're going to play for a district title or a regional title against somebody, why would you want to be hiding on one of the biggest stages? You want to play a team that's going to show you where you're at, not only where you're at, but maybe where you need to go in order to get to where they're at. And so, I know there's pros and cons, and I agree with pros and cons, but I just can't see enough overwhelming decision in my mind that would make me want to see maybe possibility of that happening and us losing those schools.
Summer's going fast. Give us a full report, fast and hard, about young Kellen and the swimming lessons.
Hey, Kellen's full bore at it. I'm not coach right now. I'm playing dad and chauffeur for the summer. So, hey, we're having a great time. We finally got a little downtime here in June or July. And so I'm just running him around from camp to camp, and we're going out and getting some pool time in, and went out this morning, try to work on getting those training wheels off and getting up on that bike and going. Weren't real successful today, but we'll keep plugging at it, so we're going to get after it.
Tim, you're one of my favorite interviews.
Thank you.
Have a great summer.
Appreciate it, son.
Best of luck for the coming
I
year.
appreciate
Tim
it.
Miller, head basketball coach of the Troy Trojans. That wraps up another edition of First Person, again sponsored by the Buckeye Insurance Group in Piqua and the Coverman Dickerson Agency here in Troy, Piqua, Covington, and now in St. Paris. For Coach Miller and our sponsors, thanks for joining us again for this edition of First Person. See you again next week here on PressProsMagazine.com.
If you are looking for quality insurance protection from a reliable company, sold by professionals, in communities like yours, that's what you'll get from Buckeye Insurance Group.
Buckeye Insurance Group, insuring the heartland.
To find your local Buckeye agent, visit buckeye-ins.com. Buckeye Insurance Group, insuring the heartland.
Insuring the heartland.